to this computer. And then there you go. I'm gonna add Haley because Haley is our official support here today from University of Delaware and working with Redding Consortium. So Haley, welcome aboard. We're just getting started.
Hi, Aaron. Good to
Hey
see
there.
you.
Good to see you too. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Um, and so before starting off, Haley, did you want to do roll call? You want me to do roll call?
You go for it, Aaron.
Perfect. So I'm gonna call everyone I see here. So from the list, I have let me see. Pamela Foster, good to see you. I do see Senator Eric Buxton, who I've been hanging out with way too much. Good to see you again, sir. I'm pretty sure I'll see you somewhere else, another event pretty soon. And then, of course, Emily Falcon is here, co-chair, and myself. Am I missing Nick? Uh, and that's
I'm
the
here, Aaron, from OMB.
perfect. I got Nick Hansman. I didn't even say your name. Sorry, Nick OMB here. And that's all I see from the list that I was sent. In visiting, also, I have John Reed. I have Haley. I'm gonna say your last
Bird.
name. But Haley Burns. I always say Kusani.
Yeah. Oh, that was
Uh,
good. Yeah. Kesani.
hey,
Yeah.
Haley Kusani, Chuck Longfellow, and then Jennifer Puccinella. Pulcinella?
Pulcinella. Yes, correct.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Visiting along with the wonderful Ray Jones Avery. Did I miss anybody in attendance? Perfect. So with that, I want to start off with public comment. So does anybody have any public comment they'd like to share for the Fiscal Impact Committee?
Yes, Aaron, I do. This is Chuck.
Hey, Chuck.
So I was hoping it would be at the end. That way I could comment on stuff y'all are going to talk about. But I just want to drop this here. Um, a few different people that I've talked to about the situation with Wilmington schools have asked me some, my opinion on maybe some strategies or tactics. And one that I've been dropping that I hope that you all will consider is what if the city schools were each individually had the amount that they would receive if they were charter schools calculated and then granted to them in lieu of whatever they're receiving now? Would that be more for the schools, even if you account for some kind of reasonable overhead charge for the services that district office provides? I think that that would be a very interesting thing to look at. And I think that it could potentially more fairly fund schools. And one of the big reasons I say that is because the current unit count system, if you don't fill a unit, you don't get the money if you're in a district. But if you're in a charter school, if you don't fill a unit, you get the median,
Chuck.
you get the median amount of salary for that person. And I think that there are probably some other things that you could look at with that. So I'm not saying charterize the city schools. I'm saying take a look at what they would receive, state and local and federal, et cetera, if they were charter schools. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful meeting.
Thank you for that, Chuck. Anybody else? Public comment?
Is public comment the format for asking questions?
It's for public comment. We can do some questions at the end.
Okay.
It's a more informal, organic group tonight.
Okay.
And there are people still entering. I'm gonna ask Hillary, can you just share your last name, Hillary? And Katie, who just came in as well.
This is Hillary Domish. I'm a parent.
Love it, Hillary Domish. Haley, you're taking notes on the attendance too?
Yes, taking notes, and we're recording, so I'll probably the Zoom file will have all the notes, or all the names, but I'm taking notes just in topic.
Perfect. That was
And
really
also,
good.
Aaron, I
Katie.
don't know if this is how your Zoom is set up, but I can't access the chat. I don't know
Oh,
if that's
really?
on purpose. Yeah, I don't see a chat. I don't know if that's just me.
No, it's not.
No, I can't either.
Oh. Dun, dun, dun. I just made you the co-host, Haley.
Okay.
So if you can find that as well,
Okay. I will look
even
around.
better. Yeah, poke around.
Will do. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out because as a co-host, I still don't see. I see a bunch of options, but none of them are the chat, which is odd.
Host tools, share screen. Yeah. Keep poking.
Okay, will
We'll figure
do.
that out. Yeah. Um, so Hillary Domish is a parent, and then I saw John Scriboat come in, and then there was a Katie, but I think she might be gone. Okay. Anybody else for public comment? As we have some new people join on. Okay. With that, I'm going to follow up. So today we are just doing some updates about what's been taking place with the fiscal committee. As new members might not know, but older members do know, we have already been meeting, sharing updates. And so that was gathering all of the finances for the districts of Northern Newcastle. And then also looking at how we can create recommendations for the Redding Consortium. And so the last two updates were that we have moved to the last meeting was to the red wine, quote unquote, option, which would be a consolidation of the having red clay and brandywine joined together and then take over the portions of Colonial and Christina School District that are within Wilmington proper. The other option that has been accepted by the Redding Consortium, all the groups, has been to have a Northern Newcastle district. So those are the main two that have been discussed, and there's been a lot of other pieces winnowed down. We appreciate all the CFOs that have been joining our group and then just sharing lots of data and pushing and pushing. And then there was also a meeting that took place on Friday of last week where the CFOs were dig into a little bit more of the information. And with that being the case, I'm going to hand it to my wonderful co-chair, Emily Falcon, to share us updates about what's been taking place since Friday.
Thank you, Aaron. And for those who joined the call after I mentioned this, I don't know what's going on with my laptop. I can't seem to get the video to work, so apologies that I'm not on camera. So, excuse me, we have, as CFOs, primary owners of kind of the cost data, we have met and talked a couple different times. And unfortunately, right as we were getting ready to gear up for, putting some of the analysis together, the lawsuit hit related to the split tax rates, which also required a lot of our attention in a time-sensitive way. So we had to put some of our work to the side. We we did meet with the Comptroller General's office as Dr. Bass mentioned last Friday. They had said offered to basically assist with putting some of the cost estimates together. As central level agencies, they have access to all of our payroll data, all of our expenditure data. So we were hoping that they might be able to assist with the lift of running some of the numbers. They did get back to us earlier this week indicating that they did not believe they were going to have any analysis available for the 28th, which is the next full Redding consortium meeting. So that was a little bit of not necessarily a shock, but because it is a lot of stuff to put together, but it does put us in the unfortunate position of not having a ton of substantive information to review tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So in the absence of, hard data or estimates to review, basically what I wanted to do is just sort of review the framework of how we were going to be going about the analysis or kind of what information needs to sort of be included. And then we can at least go forward with the understanding that when we're able to put some high level numbers around these concepts, we've got everything covered that should be from sort of a cost estimate standpoint. So, and this was for the three remaining options that that Dr. Bass mentioned for the outcomes, as well as we had talked to the Controller General's office about some of the policy recommendations that the consortium was reviewing, and they were going to be helping with those as well. So, in terms of the costing out the options, and before I keep talking, does anybody have any questions about what I've said so far? No? Okay.
Oh, you have Hillary Domish from the public.
Hi. I've not listened to this subcommittee before, but I really appreciate the information that you just provided about why we don't have as much information tonight as we hoped. Do we know if that will affect the timing for the rest of the meetings and decision-making process overall? Because it sounds like there was a lot of information that we were hoping to have. And again, I understand why we don't have it and why we couldn't plan for that ahead of time. But do we know if that'll have like timing consequences other places?
We cannot speak to that necessarily. I do know that the information we have shared should give us some guidance. But I'm pretty sure that our co-chairs, one of which is Matt Den, who's on here, definitely want as much information as possible before making a final decision. So I will defer, but I don't think we are qualified to tell you that right now. And I also know there's an October 28th meeting that'll have the entire Redding Consortium. We'll be discussing some of those plans, but I am very certain we will not be making decisions at that one. I'll let Matt jump in if he wants. And I also see, there you go, Matt. And then John, you can go after. I see Matt Den coming off mute.
No, I think what Aaron said is correct with respect to the timing of things being a subject for discussion at next week's consortium meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. And then John Scribble.
Yeah, when was this meeting posted?
I believe this meeting was posted.
When was the information and the link and the dates and times? When was this posted for notification?
I believe it was posted last week by Elena Robinson.
On the Redding website?
I'll let Haley speak to
I'll
that.
check the public meeting calendar. Elena usually posts it, but we're required to post it on the Delaware public meeting calendar a week prior.
If you just confirm that for me before the end of the call, that'd be great.
Sure. Yes.
Sure.
22nd.
Any other questions about what Emily Falcon had shared?
Well, Emily, are you gonna? I thought I heard you say you were going to review the framework.
Yes.
Okay. That was
Yeah.
the next step. Yep.
Before I got into that, I just wanted to check to see if there was any questions on how far I had gotten.
Emily, real quick, just to answer John's question, on the Delaware public meeting calendar, I would drop the link in the chat if I could, but I can send it to you via email afterwards. But the meeting was created on the 14th of October, so like a week and a day ago.
And that's when it was posted to the Redding Consortium website?
Our website updates usually are a few different. It's either
Looking for the date of the public notification of this.
the date of the public notification was the October 14th
And where was that notified?
on the Delaware public meeting calendar as required by law.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
That's okay. So So yes, as Ms. Avery mentioned, the framework that we were basically looking at trying to put together to develop cost estimates, one, the biggest factor that we've identified at previous meetings is the revenue shortfall that, or not shortfall, but the revenue that is represented by the tax receipts that are being utilized to subsidize the services being provided to students in the city of Wilmington, because the tax base within the city isn't generating sufficient revenue to allow for all the services needed. We have a number from Christina. It's my understanding that Red Clay and Brandywine were in the process of kind of trying to develop estimates of the same nature. In some cases, it's not quite as cut and dry for the other districts to do that. So, the CFOs of those districts were trying to kind of nail down at least estimates of that investment that's currently being made, because that is obviously a factor. When boundary lines move, that's something that, however they're moving, the newly formed district is going to have to account for or be made whole in some way. And then the other major cost that we're trying to get as good a handle on as we can is leveling up salaries. And this would not be just for teachers, but every employee group that would be impacted. If all 4 districts are being collapsed together or consolidated, then the highest scale of each employee group would be what folks would move to. If Red Clay and Brandywine are consolidated, as one of the options is, the highest cell on those 2 scales would be what was utilized. And then there are no leveling up costs other than the 4 city schools that would be moved in the remaining option, which is for Red Clay and Brandywine to split the city.
I'm just gonna get kicked on my phone. Oh,
So we're trying to kind of get the scale of what those costs are going to be, and we do believe that those two buckets right there, the revenue shortfall and the leveling up of salaries, is really going to constitute the majority of the costs that are sort of easily defined at this point. Many of the other costs associated with, with a transition like this really are going to depend on some of the specifics. Transportation, we have to know not only the new boundaries, but we have to know the students associated, and there's probably going to be a grandfathering clause that allows kids to stay in their schools until they either graduate or get to the next point, the next inflection point, grade configuration. So there's a lot of unknowns that really are going to be difficult to kind of pin down in terms of what the exact costs are. And we haven't yet really figured out a way to provide an estimate that is not anything other than, sort of a shot in the dark at what the costs might be, given all of the factors that are still sort of unknowable at this point in time.
okay, can we wrap it up now?
Okay.
I don't know if that's what we would call a Zoom bomb or what, but
I'm moving people. Yeah. There's a lot of them coming
That's
in.
one of those spammers.
yeah.
Keep
So
going.
really, the beyond those 2, because there's also other factors that have been mentioned in previous, efforts like this, such as unifying building maintenance systems, or not maintenance, but security systems, camera systems, things like that. And we do have data from the WEAC report that was done pre-COVID, that the plan there was basically to take some of those estimates and put sort of an inflation factor on them, to get an idea of what we were looking at with some of those expenses that would continue to be something that we'd have to, account for. But again, this continues to be a sticky exercise due to the unknown nature of a lot of the stuff that, we're going to be faced with when you move boundary lines and reconfigure schools. So, I'm happy to, I'm sure that there's half a dozen things that people are thinking that we haven't thought through, and I'm happy to take that feedback, with the understanding that, in some cases, we're going to be just kind of putting placeholders in terms of what we can reasonably expect to see cost-wise.
So with that being the case, just so you all know, to recap, from this group, past year conversation has been very much about looking at a northern Newcastle district, although we are still, as we're being asked to look at different pieces of data, we're looking at all that different pieces of data. And we also believe one thing in our conversation is that no matter what we do as far as the fiscal arm of this conversation, that we will still need to, when decisions are made as far as who will be the executive of whatever the new conglomeration happens to be, that they will also want to be able to voice their own concerns about what takes place. And so we're giving that recommendation, but that at the same time is making sure that we're being clear about answering any questions that we might have as far as the financial part of that. So that's our update. I do see a question, so I'm gonna go with Pamela first and then go to John.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question is, as Emily was reporting out, they mentioned that there are some dependencies, if I'm not mistaken. One, I guess, where we land with the property assessment and taxes. And there was also a group, financial group, I believe, and I would not recall the name. It was a lot of acronyms. But they reported out at the last meeting that I recall that we had down at Dale Castle in regards to, they had proposals relative to how they were going to structure salaries based on, I guess, the type of role that a person had. If you were in the, I guess, in the cafeteria, or if you were a special education teacher, if you were a history teacher, and there was going to dial in a lot of the variables relative to experience and time and role. Anybody remember that other than myself?
Was that Redding Consortium at Dale Castle?
No, it was Redding Consortium at Dale Castle, but this group came in to do a report out on finances as well, and how they were going to structure teacher salary based on what they currently have and use. Based on the current formula that the state uses relative to, one, costs associated with the student, and whatever that cost for a student kind of follows that student from wherever it may become a student in any given county. So like, for instance, so myself, okay, if I'm a kid in Delaware, then there's a dollar tag associated with me. And that dollar tag follows me wherever I go in the state of Delaware. If I go to a charter school or a basic public school. And I think this kind of gets to the question that I think the gentleman was asking as well. But there was also an organization that was accountable for building out the new formula associated with, one, with student head count, as well as teacher salaries and head count. Is that a dependent on this fiscal committee relative to how you're going to structure the cost?
I think that's another committee that Emily is on. That's a different committee, which would be the PEC committee. Is that correct, Emily?
Well, the PEC was the Public Education Compensation Committee, which I believe has finished. I believe it's finished meeting, although I'm not 100% sure of that. And the salary investments that the state has made in the last couple of years in public ed have represented the recommendations that came from that commission. the Public Education Funding Commission started its work about a year ago. And I do serve as one of the CFO representatives on that commission, and we have been in the process of creating a recommendation for an alternate model for how state funds are allocated to schools, that would, which, I don't want to go into kind of a recap of everything that's going on with the funding commission in terms of the dependency of the two. And this is my personal opinion, and I don't know how widely it would be kind of shared or agreed with by the Redding Consortium as a whole. But the Redding Consortium is specifically looking at the concerns around the education of students in Wilmington and how to get better outcomes for that population of students. The primary goal there being changing some sort of the governance structure around how districts are operating and how those kids are getting served. From a district perspective, a lot of the funding enhancements that they've been talking about from a policy standpoint in terms of premium pay for teachers, which I think is what you might be talking
All right. We don't need a life
Um,
story here. I've had my hand up for about 10 minutes.
and
He's been removed.
um
Go
sorry,
ahead.
that threw me off a little bit. Sorry.
I'm noticing there's a lot of people that just joined on, and there's a large number that have joined in the wait room. So just as a FYI, out of caution,
Yeah.
the people that have been interrupted are being removed, and we're monitoring that. So sorry, Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think that there's two kind of tracks. There's the fiscal impacts that are directly related to moving boundaries and redistricting students in the city of Wilmington to kind of affect a governance change. And then there's the other policy changes or recommendations that the Redding Consortium is making, that I believe, and please, somebody who's on the larger consortium, correct me if I'm misunderstanding this. I believe the goal is to kind of develop those policy recommendations and then sort of hand them over to the funding commission for consideration as part of what that committee or that consortium looks at.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Foster?
Well, I heard two tracks, and my question was, is there a dependency on the Redding Consortium fiscal impact relative to the other track, PEFC? I think that's what you said.
Right.
PEFC.
So is that a no?
That'll be a no. They're not dependent. We just happen to have a person that's on both, who's Emily Falcon. And then all the recommendations will be shared through the Redding Consortium and then passed on to the legislature to put them all together, because we're just making recommendations at the end of the day.
Okay, so in the recommendation from the Redding Consortium, and I apologize, it's a lot of moving parts with what's happening in education, and the cost associated with it is that this recommendation from the Redding Consortium is all about the cost to reconfigure.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Has nothing to do with the teacher salary or anything of that nature.
It could. So I don't want to. So just be clear, they're two different groups. We just happen to have Emily, who does both groups, and we're glad that she's a powerhouse as a CFO. But we are going to, right now, the process you shared is to level up what that looks like, a proposal. So we've asked that each cell for people, so you might have counselors, you have transportation, you have other people that are on a different cell, different pay scale in different districts, to look at what the hire is for each one of those. If we combine those, that might be a different outcome than what the funding commission comes up with. But at the end of the day, all of this will be passed on to the legislature to then say, here's what we're going to do. But they're not, our part is not dependent.
Okay, thank you.
I want to misspeak, Emily, is that correct?
No, that is accurate to what I understand.
Perfect. And John, thank you for patiently waiting and then also not Zoom bombing. We appreciate you.
Yeah, a comment was made earlier in the meeting that the Northern Newcastle County option and the red wine option were the two most favorite options, and that the other option, I don't think the committee has gotten to that. There's still a third option, which has three parts, where basically Brandywine and Red Clay are left as whole districts, but there's a line of the city that changes. And I just hope that those options aren't being ignored and taken off the table or looked at. And another thing, I know I've mentioned this a million times at these meetings, but one of the things that I've asked several times to be included in the financial look at is when we push the population down in city buildings to service the kids better, that impacts maintenance funding. And I know that seems like a detail, but that's why buildings in the city are in the condition that they're in. So a brand new school down south with more kids in it is going to get more funding than a 100-year-old building with fewer kids in the city. And I think at some point the formula has to be looked at, because this will continue to spiral out of control, where city students are attending older, more rundown buildings where palaces are being built down south. So I just hope at some point that this can be looked at, because this is also an equity issue in my view.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Aaron, can I jump in real quick? I just wanted to tag on that I do completely agree with you,
Sorry.
John, about the three options still being completely on the table. I was going to try to, that's why I noticed the chat wasn't working, because I was going to pop the language for the three options in the chat to make sure that it was clear that there are definitely three still on the table. And yeah, so good point. Thank you.
Yep. Misspeak. Sorry, that was on me. My error. We've not superseded Redding Consortium in any way, shape, or form. Just we're on the same page.
And I just want to mention, or I guess speak to John's point. I 100% agree that, you know, what he's saying is accurate. It is not necessarily a byproduct of anything that Redding is deciding on or looking to recommend. It's a byproduct of how our minor capital improvement funding is allocated at the state level, right? Which is done on a prorated share of student or units. And it has nothing to do with the building age or level of maintenance required of the facility itself. So just for the room to understand where that's coming from, it is definitely an issue where a brand new school that's serving 500 kids and a school that's 100 years old that's serving 500 kids are getting the exact same maintenance dollars. And the brand new school has far fewer maintenance needs. And it does get exacerbated when, you know, you've got fewer kids being served in older buildings. So just to put a little bit more context around John's comments, but I do agree with him.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the group?
I'm sorry, I have been unsuccessful in getting this hand raised.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a informational request and a question. The request on behalf of the Wilmington Center for Education Equity is for what is being referred to as a revenue represented by tax receipts to subsidize Wilmington students. We're requesting a line item reporting by school. The number that we've heard verbalized was $20 million by the Christina School District. And then I heard tonight that other districts are in the process of nailing down what those investments are, and you know, and a little bit more difficult. But the large number is not alone. A large number doesn't give us the information that the community needs. That's why we're requesting a line item accounting of the expenditures by school. And I can put this in request in writing. I just wanted to verbalize it so you know that it's coming. The other, should I keep going?
Yes, go ahead. And thank you for putting it in writing as well. Appreciate that.
The other is is a question in terms of your framework. So some of the things that have been alluded to may be defined as hold harmless provisions um, and cost estimates associated with it. So the question, well, first of all, the context for the question is that depending upon the model that is approved, they're predicated on consolidation specifically. There may be excess in district offices of staffing that may also be approaching retirement, but people can choose to retire. And so have you all discussed estimating what a whole harmless provision would be for buyouts in early retirement?
Go ahead.
No, that has not necessarily come up. And honestly, the reason is, other than the full-fledged consolidation, and even with the full-fledged consolidation option, there may be some marginal cost savings that could be generated at the district office level. But that operates on the assumption that there is that we are adequately staffed as it is now. And I would argue that that's in some cases not necessarily the case. I think and I can speak from the colonial perspective with the full understanding that we currently have the least number of students that are impacted by impacted in the city. But our district office is not overstaffed by any stretch. And when you have consolidation, you are serving the exact same number of students, you are serving the exact same number of teachers, you are cleaning the exact same square footage of buildings. And in a lot of cases, you're running, similar bus routes, and consolidation and savings in some of those areas are going to take a number of years to really come to fruition. So so we're hesitant to put any sort of number around cost savings because transition is going to cause extra work, right? There's going to be a lot of systems that need to be integrated. So even if you've got 2 curriculum directors or 4 curriculum directors, you're going to have to be blending 4 different educational systems together. And you're going to need extra manpower for at least some period of time to do some of that transition type work. So we have not really considered in the immediate term any cost savings that would be associated with consolidation. I think that's more of a long-term, 5 years plus out, or maybe 3 to 5 years for kind of economies of scale that might come to fruition. But I do think that the transition itself is going to require a pretty heavy lift from all staff for at least a couple of years.
Okay, thank you. So my my assumption is that the implementation phase would definitely have to have projections that are not that they go beyond like a single point in time. But the question wasn't about cost savings.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
Could I try to take a stab at what I heard? So Ms. Avery, I heard 2 things. So one is looking at there are people that are looking to retire. And so then what does that phase out look like for some people? Is that the first question?
They would be eligible to retire, but that might be advanced based on the model that's chosen.
Yep.
With your personal decisions.
And so that was the first part. And the second part was also a conversation we've been having throughout different meetings, which is economies of scale. And so there are potential cost savings that could come up from you combine everyone into, just for argument's sake, we'll say the Northern Newcastle district or another iteration of that, but you would have a larger district. So are there cost savings for that? Is that the second question I heard?
I was asking about hold harmless provisions and how you're calculating that.
Okay, so
I'm not, so maybe that's where my misunderstanding was. I'm not sure what you mean by hold harmless provision.
hold harmless provisions have been used in other states when there are district consolidations or other kinds of structural changes, so that I mean so that districts are not experiencing unintended financial consequences as a result of the structural changes. And
Right, conceptual, yes. I guess I don't know where they would be applicable in this situation.
or maybe we just haven't gotten there yet, because they will be.
Yeah. And I can also add in, so a couple different pieces. What the financial committee will not do, at least as far as I've seen, is there's gonna be some pieces that we definitely won't be getting into, because even if the pay scale, for example, we come up with this is what this looks like. We're gonna go to the highest for each individual cell on a scale and then share this with all the different groups. We would then have to have unions also accept this.
Understood.
And at the end of the day, the finance committee is only making recommendations to the Redding Consortium, which is then going to have to then look at, we need to hire leadership that will engage in this collective bargaining, which we will not do at this committee. A lot of the pieces, so what John brought up is definitely right. And we need to look at the buildings and the maintenance for what that looks like. And there's some pieces that I just want to call out we will not be doing in this committee, only because that would take away from other pieces need to take place. And my own personal piece, not for the committee, but I do feel like if an executive were to come on executive team and then have every decision made for them in advance, you might limit who.
It's preemptive.
Yep. But I do think your points are definitely correct. That will be looked at in the future. I want to just caution that we won't be able to come to that at the end of this. Our goal is to say, here is our best estimate. This is what it will cost. There's definitely room for change 100% when you move to making decisions. And then we move forward.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Emily.
I am interested in following up a little bit, because I do want to make sure that, I'm not missing anything with the hold harmless that you're talking about. So I might follow up with you separately, just to make sure if we need to be considering something that we're not.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? This was just to go back. We wanted to update you on where we are. Unfortunately, the numbers we wanted to have for this committee, as well as for our full Redding Consortium meeting 1028, will not be available until November at the earliest. So we will not meet that deadline. The same information we've already shared in previous meetings, and I can share the previous minutes with everybody, which have addressed some of the pay scales and other pieces as well. Is still where we are. We appreciate all of the people who have been inputting so much work for this committee, and we look forward to getting a lot of better answers as well for the future. So that was just the gist of tonight. There were no decisions to be made, but we did want to make sure that we gave space for the conversation, and we appreciate all of you for being here.
Thank you.
With that said, are there any other, I know we've been more informal, so I did start for public comment, and I appreciate those that made it. Were there any other comments or questions before we do call this an evening? Okay. Hearing none, we got so silent, I thought that my computer froze. Until I said Nick's face move, I was like, oh, shoot, I might have lost my internet. Seeing none, we look forward to giving more update at the meeting 1028. By the way, I did hear there were Zoom bombers at another meeting for Redding Consortium, so they must have left ours. And
Correct.
Zoom bombers suck. So
Yeah.
put that in the minutes, and that's an official statement from co-chair, and I'm pretty sure we all agree with that. If you have nothing to do on a Wednesday night but harass people trying to do good, then there's a special place in wherever you want for those people. Thank you all for this evening. We appreciate you. And I'll be sharing the notes with Haley. So I'll share the recording with you, and then we'll be able to get those minutes out to everybody.
All right. Good
Have a
night.
good
Thank
evening.
you so much.
You know.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.